As we wait to see who will become the next president of the United States, you may remember from civics class that the popular vote does not determine the outcome. It is decided by the Electoral College, which is complicated and confusing to a lot of people. So here's a breakdown of how it works. State political parties choose their electors. Each state is allocated electors based on the total number of its congressional delegation, members in the House and the Senate. The larger the population, the more electoral votes a state gets. Washington, D.C. gets 3 for a total of 538 nationwide. So a candidate needs the majority of that, 270, to win. On Election Day, votes go to a statewide tally with 48 states using a winner-take-all electoral vote system. A projected winner could take days to determine, with each state following its own rules. But the Electoral College vote, when electors meet in their states to vote, is in mid-December. The Constitution does not require electors to vote for their party's nominee, but they usually always do. Some states actually do require it. The results are then certified by Congress and the sitting vice president.